Welcome to YouTube land, Facebook land. What's going on, everybody? Assalamu alaikum. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone is doing well, inshallah. So, today is the day we're going to have our Black History Month live stream. And I have a parent here who is going to have a conversation with me to answer some questions about why is Black History Month important? Why is Black History Month American history? Why do we even have to care? As a school, as a community, right? These are questions that we want to answer. And so as your friendly neighborhood PRE, Mr. Tyler, I'm going to facilitate this conversation and hopefully we can get some, some mental, nuggets, for us to use in the future, right? For us to, internalize. So without further ado, we do have GAAQ Parent, Miss Ophelia in the building. Miss Ophelia, can you please introduce yourself? Let us know how long you've been in our community. What do you do? Why you're here today, etc. Let us know.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Ophelia Johnson. I've been a GAAQ parent for about 4 years, I think 4 years now, maybe
Wow.
5. I don't remember.
Right.
But one of the best moves I ever made for my kids, definitely. Been here in Doha for 8 years. I am a journalist, but I am also a life coach. So I'm really happy to be here with you today and to have this conversation because I think this conversation is really important. Even though we're not in America, I think it's important for people to understand American history and how Blacks contributed. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction. Let me post on Instagram and Facebook that we're live now. Got that done. The next thing is that I do have some sinuses, so you might see me go off, a little bit off the video, come back on, things like that. It's the season, right? It's almost springtime, so. And then we're going to keep this, as tight as possible in terms of time because we're doing this within our class period from 9:45 to 10:30. So I'm just going to jump right in, basically that's what I'm going to do. All right.
Okay,
So let's do it. Right. So you'll see the questions on the bottom, just in case you want to reference that. And we already started with the first one. You took that question already. So let's go to the second one. So in terms of Black History Month, we all come in different sizes, shapes, colors, and backgrounds, things like that. So what is your family's ethnic background and how do you celebrate it throughout the Black history lens?
So for me, my family is from Florida and Alabama. So I think we're just we're just Black. I mean, there is some American Indian on my grandmother's side, but on my father's side, it's not. They're more West Indies.
Okay.
They're from either, and I'm not really sure, but they're either from Bahamas, Bermuda, that type of area. And it's really sad, actually, when I think about it. It's not really until I came here to Doha that understanding where I came from became so important because people would always ask me, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm just American." Like, I don't know how to really answer that question. They're like, "No, but really, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question."
Right.
So it has been something that I actually would like to find out now that I've had this experience. Um, for us, Black History Month in my house growing up was about learning, not necessarily about like, we learned about the contributions and, my mom would always say, just pick one person you really admire and just talk about it. And, we can learn from each other, that type of thing. But I always thought it was really interesting to actually understand the story behind the slave trade, to understand how we got from this point to this point in our lives. And so for me, it was more or less doing a lot of research and just wanting to understand that for myself because I didn't understand and no one could really ever explain it to me.
Right.
So it was a celebration of trying to understand and to learn and to grow from that. So I think that's what it was for me growing up.
Definitely. And, I had a similar experience as you when I say, well, I'm a Black American, and things like that. So one day, older man, Egyptian man at a post office here in Qatar, he asked me, where are you from? He thought I was Egyptian. I said, I'm from America. And he said, where in America? Like, where are you really from, basically? And I said, well, I'm from America. I'm a Black American. He said, no Black, you're American.
Yeah.
And it made me really think about it because it's the first time I've come somewhere where I wasn't a Black American or African American. I was an
Right.
American. You know,
Yeah.
where in the US, you are a Black American, you're African American, you're something else, right? It's
Yeah.
different labels. So that was very interesting to know. And then in general, just as a context for people that may not know, we didn't have records that really told us where we were from. Our families got
Right.
separated a lot of the time throughout the Middle Passage, and even when we got to the States. And yeah, families were sold like stock, right? And that's kind of how it was. Things were destroyed, so you really didn't know like where your origin was. And so now we have technology and we can kind of see what area we came from and maybe what
Right.
tribes we derived from. But they will have to take a little DNA sample and things like that. So it's pretty cool now that you have that ability. But for a long time, you really didn't know. You just knew that you came from the motherland,
Yeah.
and I don't know where, and presumably Western Africa, right? Presumably.
Right.
So
But it
that's
could have
kind of
been central. It could have been
could have been
central. It
central,
could have been
right?
brought from the Congo, across the Congo,
Right,
over into Senegal. Like, it's so
right,
vast the way that slave trade was. So no
right.
one could ever really know the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So there's a little bit of context there, but I don't even know where I'm from. Admittedly, and maybe one day I will do a DNA test and figure it out and celebrate where I'm from. So something to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question. In terms of Black history, what does it mean to you? What does Black history mean?
Black history means to me, I don't know how to say this without sounding a little, but it means like a time of reckoning. It's a
Mm,
time for saying, yes, this and this and this happened to us.
hmm.
This is where we are now, but we still have so much further to go.
Yeah.
And I think it also acknowledges those things that have happened to us, those things that were not to be taken lightly. I mean, the stories that I could tell, but I won't tell, that my grandmother told me are stories that are absolutely heartbreaking. And so Black History Month is just really a time for acknowledgement. It's a time for people to say, you know what, that happened to you, and to be empathetic. No one's asking for anything, but it's just an understanding and it's a respect that comes along with that understanding. Because if you don't know,
Mhm.
you should know, because
Yeah.
this is something that happened. It's a part of history and it shouldn't be forgotten. Just like any other, whether it's the Holocaust, whether it's the
Right.
girls of South Korea, no
Right.
matter what it was, American Indians, no matter what it was, you have to remember. You have to
Hmm.
remember that these things happened, you
Hmm.
know? And I think that it allows for people to grow mentally and to grow, to be mature and how they deal with each other,
Right.
just that understanding. So it
Right.
means a lot. I mean, I think it means a lot. Some people might think, oh, but that's in America. That's true, but still you need to understand it. I mean,
Right.
it's part of the American history.
Right.
So,
It's such a vast question,
mm,
and that's why I asked you this because I had a conversation before with a Qatari man here, and
mhm.
I was like, wow, if I took a thobe off of you and put you in North Carolina, I would think you're one of my uncles.
Exactly.
And so yeah, and so I was just thinking about, wow, that's a beautiful thing how wide the diaspora is, how
Yeah.
wide Black people are all around the world. It's not just
Yeah.
America, we are everywhere. And so he laughed at that. He thought it was really funny, but he got what I was saying. And
Yeah.
yeah, we have the same features and looks and phenotypes and things, and sometimes we don't. We look different.
Yeah.
We have blue eyes and brown hair, and
Light skin.
light skin. Like it's
So
so.
many
Mhm.
different. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so
So
funny you said that, because I can remember coming here for the first time back in 2014
mhm,
and looking at the women who were completely covered and thinking to myself, they look just like me,
mhm,
but they
mhm.
are so different. We don't
Right.
speak the same language. We don't have the same body language. We don't have the same culture. Nothing is the same, but we look the same. And
True.
so it was just so interesting to me. And I think I have always wanted, since I've been here, to actually get to know some of the Black Qataris, if you will, like just to kind of just to vibe with them, because I feel like, hey, how are you? But it's just, it was so, it was amazing to me. Like their hair texture is different.
Right.
Everything about them is just different, but it's beautiful. Like their skin is beautiful. Like it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just really interesting when I first got here.
Definitely, and it's still interesting to this day. And
Yeah.
I really wish I could meet that guy again. Because he was so down to earth, and he said what's up to me, just like he knew the American culture and he knew
Yeah.
our culture from the Black American standpoint. But he was Qatari, and he had
Yeah.
Qatari customs and heritage and the approach of things, right? So it was just different, and but I enjoyed that experience a lot. So it's
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
this question, so next question I have actually is the basis of this live stream, right? And
Okay.
so is Black history also American history? Why or why not?
Very, very good question.
Hmm.
I don't think that Black history is just an American history.
Hmm.
I think that Black history is a history that spans the globe, to be honest. I think that, if you go to places like Sri Lanka, where they have a very small Black community,
True.
you have places in Iran where they have like these small Black communities where people were African and they settled in these places. They have their own story. They have their own struggle. They have their own history, their culture, their everything. And I think that it's a story that is universal, because I think all of us who, if you look at it, I would say are displaced, because we're not where we're from. We've been
Hmm.
taken, put somewhere else
Hmm.
at the behest of people who wanted to own us or people who owned us.
Hmm.
Um, and we're left there, and now we have to figure it out. You got to figure this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's for everyone. I think it's so important for everyone. And I think the way people see you, that's another reason why it's so important.
Hmm.
I don't know how many times I've been asked, "Oh, are you from Kenya? Oh, are you from Nigeria? Oh,
Mm.
from here, Sudan? Are you this, you that?" And I'm
Right.
like, "No, I'm just American." And their whole attitude flips when I say I'm American, because before that, the context in which they were asking me was not in a nice context, or the way
Mm.
they were treating me was not in a nice context. It was in a context of like this inferiority, of in
Mm.
this, well, like, what are you doing here? Why, and it you just, then when you say I'm American, it kind of, everything shifts and it's like, oh,
Yes.
American, oh, America, America. Yeah, that wasn't
Yeah.
cool. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
what just, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's why it has to be something that is global. And I think that people have to learn tolerance, and they have to learn how to be respectful,
Hmm.
and they need to learn and understand the history. They need to understand the history. They need to
Hmm.
understand Africa, first of all. They need to
Right.
understand all of the contributions that Africa has given to the world. That phone that you're using, all that stuff is coming from Africa. A lot of it's coming from there. So a lot of the educators back in the day were going to school in Timbuktu, because that was the place to go to university. You know, do people really know where Timbuktu is? It's actually
Mm.
in Africa. So I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
understanding the history, understanding what Africa really means to the world, instead of thinking that it's people running around with no shoes on and being with their hair different than yours. It's a lot more to it than that.
Hmm.
So I think it needs to be one of those things that needs to be talked about more. I think it's something that needs to be explained in depth to children. I think they need to understand all of that,
Right.
because we continue to have children who are growing up ignorant, sorry, but ignorant to the facts, ignorant to the understanding of Black people, whether you're
Right.
from Africa, America, from wherever. They need to understand so they can be respectful and
Yeah.
mindful of the things that they say.
Yes. And want to say as well, thank you for all the questions that are coming in. We will have a time to, address those questions as well. There's some really good ones in the chat, and so we will address those. You can keep sending them in. At a certain point, I will stop, the live stream, and we will address them together, Miss Ophelia. We'll address them together. See if we can help out some people with their questions. Right. So, all right. So here's the next thing. I think you have answered this a little bit,
Mhm.
but what has been your experience as a Black American woman living in Qatar?
Take a deep breath. Um, it hasn't been all rosy for sure.
Mhm, mhm,
There is a lot of, like I said before, this wanting to know where I'm from and expecting me to say it's Kenya or wherever,
mhm,
and uh, and I don't have a problem with that because I
mhm.
think Kenyan people are beautiful, Sudanese women are beautiful, a lot of these women, Nigerian women, South African women, they're beautiful,
Right.
um, and they're just all of them are beautiful people, so I don't have a problem with that. But I think for me, the disrespect is what bothers me.
Mhm.
I can give you one example
Okay.
quickly of a time when I was at Bounce with my children, and I was there actually with my Lebanese girlfriend,
Mhm.
and I think I got up to do something for my son, and one of her friends came over, and I just sat back down at the table, and she looked at me and she said something to them in Arabic, and they were like the look on their face, told me a lot,
Mhm.
and they're like, no, 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 America, America, and then she looked and
Mm,
she, oh, okay,
mm.
and I just, I had to give her the business. But yeah, I think there are those moments that you just feel like I shouldn't have to explain myself. I shouldn't
Right.
even have to tell you where I'm from. Respect goes both ways. Yeah.
Mhm,
So if
mhm,
you respect me, I will respect you. And
mhm.
that's what it's about. It's just about being respectful. Doesn't matter where a person
Right.
is from, doesn't matter the color of their skin.
Mhm.
What matters is that this is a human being and I am a human being, and therefore we should respect each other's space.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. So it has not been the same racism that you would face in America. It's a completely different type. It's based on passport and status,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
it's just sorry if I'm
No,
going in deep, but I just
no,
want to be
yeah,
honest. I'm gonna speak my truth.
yeah.
So
Definitely. Definitely. No, no. It's just, you're being authentic, you're being transparent. So, this is what, we have faced obviously all our lives, right? Whether it's America or different places, you do have to explain yourself. And one of the
yeah.
questions I had leading into that, you're stealing my questions. I love it.
Sorry.
I love it. Is, that ability to think like, is, being like Black and explaining that a burden or actual like opportunity? And so, like, I think, for me, I've looked at it, especially in Qatar, as an opportunity to
Yeah.
discuss some things. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's because I've gotten older and patient. I don't really know, but I do try to address those situations because I've had my awkward situations as well, where people are asking you things and are you mixed, or where you really from, or I don't
Yeah.
believe you, I don't think you're from there, or trying to test your nationality or ethnicity. And so my thing is like, I try to educate as much as possible. Sometimes it wears thin, like trying to do that all the time, it does feel laborious. But I
Yeah.
do think there's a lot of education that needs to happen here, because in America we did have civil rights act. We did have a phase of civil rights where people had to be woke, to what was going on. Even if you didn't want to, you saw it everywhere. In other
Yeah.
countries, I realized that that didn't happen. There
Right.
wasn't civil rights act. There wasn't any discussions about this at a deeper level, right?
Right.
Maybe it was more of a homogenous area where everybody was the same, versus like not that many people are different, in certain countries. So I try to use as much as possible, and sometimes it is like, I got to explain this one more time, but maybe they, some people are not all knowing of it, and that's the thing. I just try to keep it from that lens. But like you
Mhm.
said, sometimes like I don't have the patience today. I'm in a bad day. It's not the right time to have this
I don't want to
discussion.
explain it.
You know, so I totally, totally understand that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So the next question I have is actually going to address probably some of the questions that the students are presenting and chat. And we will get to this right around 10:15, just so everybody is wondering. So we'll get to your questions right around that time, inshallah. But this is a question that I really want to ask you. So a lot of people are saying, like, there's a lot of focus on Black voices and what Black people want today.
Mhm.
that everyone's woke now because of the things that have been happening in the world.
Yeah.
And so my question to you is, do you think there's enough being done to recognize Black voices today? Or is there still more that needs to be done, in terms of the conversation?
Oh, no, there will never be enough until everyone is willing to say or stop saying, get over it.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
so when you have a country or a group of people or whoever, however you want to say it, their attitude is get over it. That
Yeah.
happened 400 years ago. Why are you still harping on it? Why do you, think you need reparations or whatever? No, we still have a long, long, long way to go, because the trauma that has happened within a whole entire community has not been healed. That rift has not been healed. You still have the same agenda on the table when it comes to Black people in America. And you see it, I see it, especially as a journalist, at least
Mhm,
once a month, where police are shooting unarmed Black men in the streets.
mhm.
So, no, nothing has really been done. People are woke or half asleep, but more needs to be done. I'm not
Yeah.
saying we can sit down at the table and hold a kumbaya, but
Mhm,
what needs to happen is everyone needs to just respect that there is this disparity between this group and that group, and just understand that. And we need to work towards closing that gap. That gap
yeah.
needs to close. Everyone, I don't care where you're from. I don't care where you're from. Everyone has the right to live in a place that's safe, to have food, to have a home, to have their rights, and not have their rights taken away from them just because they look suspicious, or just because,
Mhm,
oh, you were on the wrong side of it, whatever it is.
mhm,
Whether you're in the wrong
mhm.
neighborhood or whatever, a person still has rights.
Yeah.
So no, we have not come very far. We're
Mhm,
it's basically, we started, it stopped, and now it's going in reverse.
mhm.
That's basically what's happening. So I
Yeah.
just think that I don't know if what the conversation would look like, but I think that our Congress and our government needs to do more to protect Black people in America, for
Mhm,
sure. For
mhm,
sure. They jumped at the opportunity when everything was happening with coronavirus and people beating up on Chinese people. They passed legislation, but still,
mhm,
the George Floyd bill has
mhm.
not been
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that taking so
Good point.
long when
Mhm,
this happened to these people, and automatically, boom, legislation is passed and it's a hate crime, it's this, it's that, and still nothing. Still nothing. So now we
yeah.
got a long way to go. We have a long, long, long way to go. And
In the everything you said, like I still think we have a lot of a lot of headway, to clear.
yeah,
I agree with that. I don't. A lot of people don't know this. I haven't said it really publicly, but my mom's father and George Floyd's father are first cousins.
get
And
out.
so, yeah, so when situation like that happened, I remember having a conversation with my mother, and she said, "Did you know that both of our fathers are first cousins?"
Wow.
We've been trying to get in contact with the family and things like that, but I think respectfully, she was trying to let things die down, let the family grieve, and things of that nature. But the thing that me and my mother discussed that night when and everything happened was the fact that now things I'm actually happy for cameras on phones now, because
Yeah,
before it used to happen, no one ever said anything about it because it wasn't recorded, and
right,
what you can't prove cannot be, I guess, criminalized, right? But
right.
now with the cameras, everywhere, people having their phones out, you can actually see what's going on, and it doesn't have to be spoken anymore. And every situation is different.
Yeah.
Our struggle as Black Americans is no different than the struggles in Palestine,
Oh my
no
God.
different than the
Oh,
struggles of Rohingya Muslims and the Uyghur Muslims, right?
yeah,
No
yeah.
different than, I mean, there's so many, like,
Yeah, there's so many.
so many struggles in the world
Whew.
for humans to just get the basics
Yeah, My
Basic
heart
things.
really, really goes out to the Palestinians.
Right.
I'm
Right.
It's not even that I'm so angry.
Hmm.
I'm so angry, and nobody's doing anything. The
Hmm.
US isn't doing anything. Europe isn't. Nobody. It's like, how can you see this happening and do nothing?
Yeah.
Anyway, oh
It's just
yeah,
it's a human right issue. So as
yeah,
Black Americans, what I've seen is a lot of people have said, I can identify with your struggle
yeah.
because they're going through something with their ethnic group as well, right? Or their
Right,
nationality.
right.
Like I can
Yeah,
see it and I understand it. So, we all kind of come together and bond over that. But, when that situation happened with George Floyd, I said, this is ridiculous, that we still have to have this conversation in
yeah,
2023
yeah,
about being treated as a human being. So
yeah. But
yeah. So yeah.
what I
Hmm.
thought was really profound about George Floyd was the
Hmm.
fact that the world spoke out. You
Yeah.
had people from Australia, South Africa, from South
Yeah.
America, everyone saying Black Lives Matter. You would never have known that all these countries are going through the same exact thing
Mhm.
until this just blew up. It
Right.
exploded and the whole world came out, from
Right.
Paris to Australia to South America, from everywhere. People were talking about how
Yeah.
they're being treated by the police. This is a universal problem. So this is not just an American problem. This is big, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we're all in this together, and everyone needs to we need
Hmm.
to fight it together. Like we need
Yes.
to have a voice, be heard, and fight it together, because no
Yes.
one is exempt from this.
And the small little nugget about the police in America. I know we have a lot of issues with the police and the relations, and not every cop is bad. I met some really good
You
cops that let me
Amazing.
go sometimes, and I should have had a traffic infraction or a violation, and they weren't black, right? They were
Yeah,
a white
yeah,
man. He was like, "You're going,
yeah.
man. I understand. Just get it done." So not every cop is bad at all.
Right.
But
That's true.
man, just you think about the formation of cops in America, it was around the time when slaves were let free. Cops were
Yeah.
established and police forces were established to make sure that the slaves that now were free were not
Right.
going to do anything, right? So they really policed them, and there was still that hatred in their heart. It wasn't like the war ended, we released everyone, and then everybody is good now. It was still
Right.
there. There was still work to be done, but that was their main function at that time. And I have only thinking now that we haven't gone away from that too much in
No,
some departments in America.
not
That's
at all.
how it is. Whew,
You know.
yeah. So yeah, but
So
it's just reality. We're all in this world dealing with something, and we got to fight it together. That's the only way, through numbers, right? So
yeah. I
one last
actually sometimes,
question.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. But one last question, because it's going to be 10:15, and I want to make sure we
Yeah.
answer. But one last question. So for
Mhm.
families who are wondering, why are we talking about Black history? What does it matter? Like, what do you think that families can do to have conversations to help their children and even themselves, like, understand the world in totality? That, like, everyone has a place in this world. We don't have to minimize someone to elevate ourselves. How do families have those conversations?
That's a really hard question. I think families have to want to have that conversation first.
Mm, good point.
I mean, it's not,
Good
if
point.
for you're living in a world where I'm just throwing it out there, maybe you're white or you're Arab or whatever,
Hmm.
this is not really a concern of yours. So there's no need to necessarily talk to your kids about it.
Great.
However, a lot of the children are following hip hop, or they are following the Black
Hmm.
culture, so to speak.
Hmm.
And they're using words because they heard it in a song and they think that that's appropriate. And what I want to say to that is, it's not appropriate. It's not appropriate. Educate yourself. I don't care what word it is. I don't care if you're using onomatopoeia. At least know what it means.
Facts.
If you want to use the N word, understand the ramifications of using that word and the impact that it has on people who were,
Mhm,
I mean, it's a
mhm,
negative thing.
mhm.
So just be careful with the words that you use. It's not a word that you have to use.
Yeah,
So that would be the thing that I would hope parents would talk to their kids about, to be respectful and to be mindful of the words that they're using, because
yeah,
not all words are appropriate. Curse words are not appropriate.
mhm,
Negative words are not appropriate, not even just for Black people, but for white people,
yeah,
for
yeah.
Jewish people, for
Facts.
whatever. Just
Yeah,
be respectful. That's
Be
what I would
respectful, yes. Yeah.
parents are having that, because that's the conversation I have with my kids. Be
Hmm.
respectful.
Hmm.
You know, you hear someone say something you don't like, you know, call them on it, educate them. And if they don't want to be educated, then now you know you move on and you
Right.
let them stay over there in that space. That's
Right.
their space. Yeah.
Right. Now I'm with you. I'm with you. Also, is the power of students coming to the table. You know, that I have friends where parents may have been a little bit racist or biased,
Hmm.
but they spoke up, the kids,
Yeah.
and they said, "Hey, you know, why are we like this? I have a friend named Justin. I would love to bring him over, but
Hmm.
you know, he's a great guy. He's nothing that you say he is, or you know, just certain situations where I've had that." And I came over. I was like, "I'm not even comfortable being here if I know your parents are like this.
Right.
Why do I even want to be here? I just hang out with you at the park." And
Right.
those conversations hurt, you know, my friend, and he went to his parents and told them about themselves, you know, basically. And over time, I even seen those parents make growth in
Yeah.
their thought process because they just need to meet one person. A lot of us in America don't talk to each other.
Right.
So all you
Right.
think about is what media says or what's purported out there instead of like, hey, let me have a conversation, you know, with my neighbor who's from this country. See what's
Yeah.
going on. Let me chop it up with them, you know, on the lawn and have a conversation. So we
Yeah.
don't do that enough, you know, and I think that's the travesty right there.
Yeah.
So we have to go into now the comments. I haven't forgot about everyone's wonderful comments, and I really appreciate all the students out there who are giving, you know, these great questions and comments. So this is the first one. I'm gonna go through them rapidly as much as I can, like rapidly. So let me take this banner off. Let me go to this comment. First question is actually a really appropriate question. Why is Black History Month this month? I know the answer. I think I don't know if you, Ophelia, you know.
Oh
I
no.
think you can don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure. Carter G. Woodson wanted it to be a 1 week or 1 month in February, right? In the month of February, because I think Abraham Lincoln's birthday was in February,
Oh,
and
okay. And
he
he
wanted to
did
commemorate.
slaves.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it
Okay.
became Black History Month over time. 'Cause a lot of people make memes about why is it 28 days versus 30, 31. But I think that's the initial reason why it is in February. So hopefully that helps, Ahmad. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it says, why is Black History Month widely remembered while other days such as the Holocaust, genocides, etc., are not? But I think they are. I think everything has its place. I don't want to
Yes.
answer for you, affiliate, but I think everything has its place. We are an American school. You cannot take American history without talking about Black Americans' contributions and achievements into American history. So I think that's why it's important for us as an American school to have this conversation.
Yeah.
But everyone has their thing. You don't have to minimize someone else's struggle to maximize yours. Everyone
That's
has a place. Everyone can have a conversation about
right.
it. So hopefully, Celine, that makes sense. You know, in terms of my answer. Ophelia, do you have anything to say about
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I would definitely, just to, you know, piggyback off of what you said, is that right now we're just talking about Black History Month, but I think we should talk about the Holocaust. You know,
Mhm.
we should talk about all these different things that happened. We should talk about, when we talk about World War I or we talk about World War II, we also need to talk about those people that were impacted by those wars, the
Mhm.
people who were marginalized, the people who were when the genocides happened. We should be talking about those things. I mean, her question is great. I think it's
Yeah.
great. So yeah, I think that that is something that needs to be talked about. Not just, oh, World War II happened and this was D-Day and da da da. No, let's talk about what really happened. So
Mhm.
kids really understand to be able to wrap their head, and it becomes more of a human story.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being about this war, it has to be a human story. People need to feel like they can connect with something, not just, okay, so World War I happened from this time to this time, and this was the person, and Hitler was doing. No, there's so much more to it than that. There's so
Yes.
much more to it than that. So that's a
Yes.
great question.
It
I hope
is.
I did that.
It is. It is. So we got 10 more minutes to answer these questions. Do you think there's not enough Black representation in the school system? Good question. I don't really know what angle you're coming from with the school representation or Black representation, because there's so many things I could think about in terms of how to answer that. But in terms of everything, I think everyone has its own, like I said, own time and space for the conversation. We're not as a Black American History Month, African American History Month. We're not looking at it from dominating all 12 months of the cycle. Everyone has this representation. Even in this school, we don't really have a lot of Black Americans here at the school. But like I said, it is part of the history of America. When we study American history, we have to talk about Black representation in that respect. So I can't really speak for the school system, but in the respect of American history, we have to talk about Black American achievements and contributions and struggles.
Yeah. I'm looking at this question, I guess maybe in a different way. I think maybe they're asking, is there enough, Black American teachers within the school system that can actually bring that level of understanding and be able to share their experiences with these students? And I don't know, honestly. I know that when I came to GEMS for the first time, I was ecstatic to see a lot of Black American teachers, and then met Justin and the counselor, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is not just like, and don't get me wrong, people from all over the world are great teachers. I'm not saying that. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I just thought it was a nice, but do I think it needs more representation? Of course, I think it does.
Yeah,
I really do.
And we are a school of 71 nationalities, so we do have to have diversity on the faculty side as well. Yeah, has to, absolutely.
Totally
So
fine.
Abdullah, why is Black History Month celebrated when there's a lot of minority groups who have suffered in the past? Again, I think we answered this question before. Everyone has this space and place in history. Just this month, this is what has been dubbed the Black History Month, and it's a part of American history. So hopefully that answers that question, Abdullah. Hamza, does other non-American schools celebrate Black History Month? I don't know. As an American school, you should, but I don't know if other non-American schools do. I'm not sure about
British
that.
school does not. No, British does not.
Yeah. So that's a different. I'm looking at all these questions here. Russell, Black History Month is a month where people are taught watered down history regarding slavery instead of talking about African history past just America. Yeah, we just had this conversation before the show started, where a lot of people say, oh, Black American history started with slavery. And somebody mentioned this too. I think Russell also mentioned Mansa Musa. He was the richest man in the world. If you took his evaluation for today, his net worth, he'd be the richest man ever to walk this earth. And that was a West African man, a West African king. So this is, so Russell made a good point. I appreciate that insightful comment, Russell. Yes. Let me see here. Ivana again. I noticed that many Black figures were connected and fought together for rights, and I found this interesting as it shows how unified the Black community is. I really appreciate that, Ivana. We were definitely, at that time when that was going on, we were very connected. We still have our work to do as a Black American community, but we're getting there. I appreciate that insightful comment there. Hamza said he learned a lot about Nelson Mandela, and this is the part we talk about. Maybe not in American history, but this is diaspora, right? This is all over the world, right? So Nelson Mandela. Shout out to Nelson Mandela.
And honestly, in our history, even we talked about Mandela. Mandela was everything for Black Americans. So please don't think that he wasn't. He was a huge figure for us, and we followed him and we loved him, and he was like our hero.
Yes.
So he is definitely a part of all of that.
Oh, absolutely. He was on the pantheon of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. He was right there, lockstep.
Yeah, he was there with all of them.
All of them. Let me see here. Ideal Vines, thank you for that comment. Really appreciate that. Reem said, I did a project about Black History Month. I picked Ray Charles, who was a really famous singer back then. He inspired many people and tried a different hobby, even if you have disability. That's a real good point as well. He is a legend for sure. Celine again, I learned no matter what race you are, if you're willing to commit to something you like, you never let things like race interfere. This is true. And Muhammad Ali is an international figure. Anyone in the world, if you say his name, they know who he is, right? He was a loudmouth, right? He believed in what he believed in. But people know him, right? Everyone knows him. So, and I love it that you're talking about what you've studied. So I'm putting these up. I'm trying to get through. We have 5 more minutes. So if I put them up here, I'm just letting people see it. Shout out to President Barack Obama, first Black president of the United States. Here we go. So I realize the extent of people of different races must go to get their voices heard compared to white Americans. Well, listen, if you think about the history of America, it really wasn't designed for Black Americans to exist in
Yeah.
that history. It was more so like you work, you have a function, but it wasn't as a citizenship, right? So we had to
Yeah.
grow and progress as a country to get to that point where Blacks were even seen as citizens. There was a point in time where on the books we were considered 3/5 of a person with the 3/5 compromise, right? So you
Right.
can look it up. So it just tells you we've come a long way from that, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But you're right. We're still getting our voices heard. Social media is helping out a lot. It's really putting things to the forefront. But again, all of us need to be heard. All of us need to have this conversation. It's not just a silo for Black Americans to talk amongst ourselves. We need to actually talk to everybody, and we need to hear from everybody too and see what's going on.
Right.
So yeah. Some other comments here. Tiger Woods. Yes, it's a great and bring more diversity not to the sport of golf, but around the world. Exactly. This, like I said, Serena Williams and Venus Williams. If
Yeah.
you've seen King Richard the movie, how they did not want them in their country club. No one would want to coach them. They had to learn on the raggedy tennis courts. The dad had them out there on torn down tennis courts, and he taught them. He got them all the way to where they needed to go before they became stars. But people
Yeah.
didn't want to. Yeah, so you got to see that movie King Richard as well. It's really good. So Damon John is another one, right? About yes, he's a legend. Here we go. So Russell said, police brutality is truly appalling. Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old African-American child that got shot by police officers in 2012, but there was no protests and riots then. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a toy gun. And we all had played toy guns and cops and robbers and things like that. But I don't know how a 12-year-old could be menacing to a child who wasn't. But I won't go there.
Yeah,
I won't go there. Yusef, are South Americans Black or no? This is interesting. Good question. Ophelia, I know you want to go. I know you have some insight on that one.
Well, okay, so the slave trade, okay, so let's go back a little bit. So the easiest port that Portugal could get their African slaves was actually in South America, because it was literally a direct shot straight across from the West African coast over into Brazil. So yes, they are Black. They are Black, but they're Black Latino, okay? Or they're what they call them,
Afro-Latina.
Yeah, so
Afro-Caribbean. Yeah.
they have it. They have that history of being slaves that were brought over to work in those in Brazil and all different places within South America. So that is yes, they are considered.
Yes.
Well, they consider themselves Afro. Yeah.
Yes, and then also in certain parts, I can speak of Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras. Even if you look at the World Cup, look at Ecuador's team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Black men on that team.
Yeah.
Right. So you can have the skin color, right, and still be known as a Negroid or what they would call Black. Right. That's a race. But then you can have the culture of Ecuadorian. You can have the culture of Venezuelan, right, or Colombian. In the Philippines, they call them Negritos, right? You have them. So everywhere you can have this color, and we're all part of diaspora, but your culture may influence how you talk, you walk, you think, and what you believe in, all those things, right? So
they go through their own police brutality, they go through their own issues with race and in terms of like how they fit into the social ladder, based on the color of their skin. So they go through the same exact things.
Absolutely. That's a really good question. I have a last one here, and then we'll end the show. How does the awareness of the apartheid play into Black History Month?
Wow, that's an excellent question. I think, I think for a long time, and I don't know because I'm not from that era. I'm older, but I'm not from that era. But I think for a long time, I think that many Blacks thought that what was happening to them was just happening to them. They didn't realize that there was a whole nother continent where other people were being suppressed where other people were being demoralized, where they were being beaten and killed, and they didn't know. So when apartheid came to light for many African Americans, and I'm only going by things that my mom and my grandmother used to tell me, when those things came to light, it was kind of like, oh, okay. And then you see this man who rises up out of that, and he's fighting this, and it's like, yeah, it kind of brings and solidifies everything for us to understand that what is happening to us is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same, because in America, while it wasn't called apartheid, it was for colors only, for whites only. We can't go to this place, sit down and eat. It's the same exact thing. It's a part of apartheid, right? Because we can only go to these little places. We can't go wherever we want. You can't even walk down certain streets, even to the States, it's a problem,
Right. True.
It's so,
True. Yeah, and then the funny thing is, when I was growing up, I thought of apartheid like Nelson Mandela in South Africa. That's the apartheid I thought about and, was raised on, in terms of seeing their struggle. In 94, I was 10 years old, and kind of understanding who Nelson. Yeah, I'm telling my age a little bit. That's all right. I'm proud of it. But then now, as an adult and as a Muslim, I think of apartheid as what's happening in Palestine.
Oh, absolutely.
So, it's like, that's heartbreaking to see. And I can identify with them as well, even though I'm not Palestinian.
That's right.
It's not a Muslim thing. It's not a Palestinian thing.
No, it's a human
rights, right?
That's
so I think we all can play apartheid into like Black American history or Black history, because it's like we understand the struggles. We can identify that someone's trying to take away inalienable rights or a way of living that everyone else can get, but I can't get that here, or has been taken away from me forcibly, right? Or my life has been lost, or people that I know lives have been lost. So that's when I think of apartheid as well. I think of it, modern day Palestine. When I was a kid, I saw, South Africa and the struggle that they were going through. And you got to think about South Africa in 30 years, almost 30 years. It hasn't been a long time. Civil rights have been 60 years. It hasn't been a long time since then. It's still a baby, right, in terms of its steps. Well, Ophelia, go ahead. I'll let you end the last thoughts.
No, I just want to say, even if you look at the Rohingya Muslims who were in Myanmar, who've been exterminated and kicked out of their land, off of their homes, everything, babies burned, everything. You look at the Uyghur Muslims. I mean, so many, it's happening. It's still happening. It's still happening. It hasn't stopped, So it's not just a Black thing, Black American thing. This is a worldwide problem. And I really want the young people to understand that you are our future. You guys are the ones who can create change and change this world. You can change the way people see other people, but you have to open your heart. You have to be empathetic. Okay. You have to understand that someone else's suffering is not that far from your suffering, because that could be you, So just please be kind to each other, be respectful, and just understand other people's perspectives.
Yeah, that's a great question to end, and that's a great answer to end as well. If you have 2 minutes, I'd love to do those 5 fun questions before we end out. You've been such a great sport today. You've been such a great sport today.
Thank you.
Well, we're gonna do some. Yeah, of course. We're gonna do some 5 fun questions, right? These are questions that are random. She doesn't know what I'm gonna ask. I just want to hear her thoughts. This is the fun part to end the segment, right? So here we go. So let's get this comment out the way as well. And then this question is on the screen there. So have you been ever told that you look like someone famous? If so, who was it?
Oh God, no, never.
No, never.
No,
no doppelganger, no twin.
No.
Nothing like that. Really?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I wish they said Beyonce, but no.
Oh man. I think Stephanie Mills said that Deanna Ross was more classy than Beyonce. That's another subject. But
nobody can touch Diana Ross. Diana Ross.
That's true. That's very true.
I don't know who that is, but she was a queen.
Definitely, most definitely. Okay, so no doppelganger. Let's go to the second question. You have your own late night talk show. Who do you invite as your first guest?
Ooh, has to be somebody funny.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I need to laugh. Who would it be? Probably Kevin Hart, because Kevin Hart is so funny to me.
Hmm.
He's so funny and he's so real, and I just feel
Yeah,
like it would be such a good time.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a good one. Hard working guy as well.
yeah.
Really appreciate his hustle. So definitely okay. Next one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I've ever been given, I would say, is to just, I mean, this is so cliche, and I really hate to say it, but it's just love yourself.
Oh yeah,
You know,
that's a good
just
one.
love yourself. Like, don't care about what other people think. Just love yourself, and everything else will fall into place.
You're right. I read something where it said that out of 100 people, 80% of people don't care or indifferent about you.
Mhm.
So they
Yeah,
really don't have an opinion. They really don't care to follow. There's 10% who, no matter what you would do, they won't like you. They
yeah.
just they
Just
won't like
won't.
you no matter what.
Okay.
Just
Don't
don't
have
matter. It
to.
doesn't matter. But there's a 10% of that, or 10 people who would do anything for you, strangers or anything. They just like you.
Yeah,
Resonate with you, to connect with you. And I think that's life. So if you do what you're supposed to do, there's always the world is looking for you. They're not looking for another Eddie Murphy. They're looking for another Justin Tyler. They want to be you. Well, who are you? Because
you are.
someone's going to tap. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're your own lane. You're your own entity, if you will. Okay. Two more questions. If you had a time machine, would you go back in time or would you leap into the future?
Oh, I would go back in time, I think. I don't even want to know what the future is going to look like with all this global warming and
Oh
everything
yes.
that's going on. No,
Yeah.
I'm not interested. I want to go back. I want to be a baby and I want to just say Google Gaga and that's it. Like, I don't even want to know about the
Mm,
world. I don't want to know
mhm,
I want to come back as innocent as I was the day I was born. That's it.
mm. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I want to do? I want to go back in time with the knowledge that I have now. I know it's
Yeah.
not possible,
Yeah.
um, but I would love to. Like, okay, now I know how to set my life up now.
Right.
So yeah, definitely.
I know who to marry, who not to marry, which way to go, which
Right.
direction in my
How to
career,
make
everything.
money, how not to
Yeah.
get into debt, all those
Yeah.
type of things.
Yeah.
It'd be great. All right. So one more question here. If a movie was made about your life, which actor or actress would play you?
Um, Taraji P. Henson.
That's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. Why though? I want to hear why.
Because she is so powerful in her performance. And I think the only way for my story to be told is through power. There's no other way,
Mm,
because it's
that's
something.
real. That's
I could
real.
write a book.
That's real.
I will
That's
write a
real.
book.
I think I would do Will Smith. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I'm not saying that I live like him, but I think that, you know, I, the people who know me, I'm funny, but I'm also like serious. I have different sides. And I think he's the one person who can encapsulate like different sides that I present in the
Yeah.
world. So I don't know. I think he would be the best to do. So
Just
yeah.
don't smack anybody.
No, no violence over here. You know what I'm saying?
No violence.
Yeah, no. That's no, not provoked. Provoked. It doesn't matter. I'm talking it out
Yeah.
intelligently. Walking away. That's what we
Yeah.
doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
the opportunity.
And I hope to everyone out there in YouTube and Facebook that you enjoyed this conversation as well. Hopefully, we answered as many questions as we could. If we said anything to offend you, we did not mean to say anything to offend
Yeah.
anyone here. What we're basically trying to say is two things: Black history is American history, and two, the Black struggle is also synonymous to people struggle around the world.
That's right.
That's the connection. It's not just why should you care about us and no one else. We're not minimizing anyone's light.
Nope.
We're actually putting light to it as well through our struggle. And through that struggle, we can collectively come together to fight and think about ways to make our lives better and to
Mhm.
educate others and to make
Yeah.
sure that we keep ourselves in check, that we don't have any bias, discrimination, racism in our own hearts
That's
because we
right.
can't get anywhere with that hate in our heart. So that's the conversation. Those are the two takeaways from this conversation. What about you, Ophelia? Any takeaways that you want to have for people to leave this live stream?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I think this is not just, I mean, yes, we are talking about Black History Month, but Black History Month entails a lot of different things. And so what we're asking for is just compassion, understanding, and respect. And that goes for everyone. It's not just about Black people, it's about everyone. Anyone you encounter, recognize that this is a human being and they deserve the same amount of respect as you. That's it.
Absolutely. And on that note, signing off, ma salama. Have a great day and take notice on the rest of the activities we have for Black History Month this week. I think you'll like it. Have a good one, everybody.
All right.